Mm. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, suddenly the light on my face has changed the complexion of my otherwise glorious skin, but it's changing. And welcome to another session of Finding God. We are still on chapter 48, Surah An-Naml, the ant. And last week we covered until verse 44, where we discussed a bit of the story of Moses and then a bit of the story of Solomon and how he invited the Queen of Sheba and their interaction and the meaning thereof. Let me adjust my camera. Um, Today, we continue with the same chapter, but we will be looking at other stories that are mentioned here. Um, and there's some important footnotes here in this chapter, and then it wraps up in the end. So, without further ado, I don't intend on taking too much time, but just as a recall, last week we were talking about the story of Solomon, um, his command over birds, and the presence of jinn and other entities in his realm who were able to harness metaphysical forces and bring over the platform for the queen and perform tasks which today might seem non-scientific to us or might seem paranormal or metaphysical to us, but at that time it was very different. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. And indeed, we sent to Thamud their brother Salih, saying, worship God alone and none else. Then look, they became two parties, believers and disbelievers, quarreling with each other. Happens in everything. It's not just religion, it's politics, it's sports, it's fashion, it's literature. We end up dividing ourselves and then quarreling between us. I don't think we have evolved beyond that or will ever evolve beyond that. I think that is intrinsic to human nature, and to change that is to change what is human about us. Um, he said, "O my people, why do you seek to hasten the evil torment before the good, which is God's mercy? Why seek you not the forgiveness of God, that you may receive mercy?" It's a valid question, I'd say. He's making them think about it. They said, "We augur ill omen from you and those with you." He said, "Your ill omen is with God. Nay, but you are a people that are being tested." So, most, if not all, prophets that we believe in Islam are prophets or messengers. They're less concerned with convincing people, they're more concerned with warning them. And I wonder why that is. Today, when we see somebody who is of respectable mind and opinion, we expect to be convinced by their words. Sometimes they warn us, but other times they motivate us, they inspire us, they do all sorts of things. But the messengers of God are only warning people. There's very little that goes about convincing. I wonder why that is. Maybe warning is the strongest motivator, stronger than inspiration itself, and warning is steeped in fear, and fear is a very potent force. Maybe that is why, rather than reasoning with people and rationalizing arguments, you warn them. Let's take an example. If somebody is diabetic and they keep eating food with high sugar content, we can motivate them and say, look, it's so much better not to eat this food. It's so much better to eat the other thing. But something that might hit them really hard is telling them, if you keep doing this, you're going to die. And everybody who loves you is going to miss you and be upset because you're dead, because of your actions right now. that has a very different impact rather than motivating. Look, you can lose weight and you can fight this diabetes, and we're here with you. That's also very powerful. And in today's world, in 2023, over the last 30, 40 years, motivation, inspiration, support have become the common, or the respected, or not respected, the valued methods, because it doesn't make you feel bad. It's not that it is a better philosophy. If it were, then the other ones would have never worked. It's not that it's better, it's just that it doesn't make people feel bad. You motivate them, you make them feel good about themselves. I do it all the time. I try to motivate people all the time. Um, and I tie it to being a positive rationalist, to keep myself positive and them positive. But warnings have sustained throughout our history. And warnings are one of the best ways we educate our children. One warning is, oh, you're going to get an ass whooping. That's one. But the other is also, don't touch the fire, it will hurt. Don't play with the wardrobe, it's going to fall on you and hurt. Don't go out on the street alone, somebody might kidnap you. Don't fight with people in school, they might break your nose. A lot of child rearing is warning because it sets boundaries and it guides behavior. Some of it is motivating, where you say, come, play with daddy, play with mommy. A lot of it is motivating, but a lot of it is also warning. So, and the same happens in school. The teacher says to you, if you don't study hard enough, you're going to fail. If you fail, you'll have to repeat this course. And you say, oh, okay. Somewhere from that part of life to adulthood, warnings start taking a bad rap. And I don't know why that is. It makes people feel bad. And in today's world, we try to avoid saying things that make people feel bad. I find that a bit unnecessary and counterproductive, to be very honest, because sometimes warnings can be a very potent tool. In foreign policy, we use them all the time. In business, we use them all the time. In entrepreneurship, we use them all the time. In academia, deadlines are sort of a warning. If you cross this time, you will not be able to participate in whatever you're trying to do. All these things matter. So today, the role of somebody who warns, a warner, has received a bad reputation. But if we put it in context, it's actually the strongest way to reach somebody. I wonder if there's a stronger way. Our movies tell us that love is a stronger way, but I don't know if that's true. It feels good to say that love is the strongest force and it reaches quickly. It feels good. It makes us feel, oh, what a wonderful, lovely world we live in. But I wonder if that's true. Because as a child, I remember my parents' love. Absolutely, I love, respect them. I would do anything for them. But I also remember the millions of warnings my mother gave me about a million things. I do a whole series about this called Lessons from My Mother. Same from my father. So I wonder what is stronger, and if it's stronger, why is it chastised and has such a negative connotation? I'll just come back to the Quran. Sorry, there was a bit of a digression. You are a people that are being tested, and there were in the city 9 men from the sons of their chiefs who made mischief in the land and would not reform. This is still at the time of Salih, the people of Thamud. They said, swear one to another by God that we shall make a secret night attack on him and his household. And thereafter we will surely say to his near relatives, we witnessed not the destruction of his household, and verily we are telling the truth. So they were planning on dismantling or causing some destruction, and then saying, oh, we had no idea. Plausible deniability. We had no idea something happened to him. So they plotted a plot, and we planned a plan, while they perceive not. They see how was the end of their plot. Verily, we destroyed them and their nation altogether. You know you've screwed up in life when God is planning against you. May I just say. These are their houses in utter ruin for they did wrong. Verily, is indeed an ayah, a lesson or a sign for people who know. And we save those who believed and used to fear God and keep their duty to Him. And remember Lot. So now Salih and Thamud have finished, and now it's Lot. When he said to his people, do you commit al-fahisha, which means evil, great sin, every kind of unlawful sexual intercourse, sodomy, while you see one another doing evil without any screen? Do you practice your lusts on men instead of women? Nay, but you are a people who behave senselessly. Now, a few chapters ago, we've discussed this. In Islam, homosexuality is not accepted. You can kick it about, you can move it as much as you like, you can twist it around to see if it fits. It doesn't fit. Adultery, infidelity, homosexuality, indulging in excessive sexual activity outside the marital home, with children, with animals. No, sexual activity is only restricted to husband and wife. That's it. No one else. Some may call that conservative, others may call that archaic. Those are just perspectives. In Islam, that's what we believe. And 2 billion Muslims, those who practice the faith, believe the same, particularly in all these countries which still uphold these values. So that is why when it refers to Lot and the people of Lot, it uses the term sodomy, men having sexual relations with other men. It doesn't even say homosexuality, because in Islam that has a very negative connotation, and it's not to be dabbled in. So now it refers to that situation, the story of Lot. There was no other answer given by his people except that they said, drive out the family of Lot from your city. Verily, these are men who want to be clean and pure. So we saved him and his family, except his wife. We destined her to be of those who remained behind. So probably she wasn't on the same page as him, perhaps. And we rained down on them a rain of stones. So evil was the rain of those who were warned. A rain of stones. That's not easy. Now, the pedantics between us might look at it and say, how can stones rain down from the sky? Perhaps stone means large hailstones. It could mean that. Or perhaps it could be remnants of stones that have carried through the wind and then turned with the rain. It could be any of those things. Nitpicking wouldn't help here because I can't prove it to you. So we say, say, O Muhammad, all praise and thanks are God's, and peace be on his slaves whom he has chosen for his message. Is God better, or all that they ascribe as partners to him? Of course, God is better. And then it leads to a few footnotes narrated by Anas radiallahu anhu. The Prophet said, whoever possesses the following three qualities will have the sweetest delight of faith. Number one, the one to whom God and his messenger become dearer than anyone else. I'm not there yet. For me, my parents still rank very high, higher than the Prophet, but perhaps that is something I have to work upon. I place God, parents, Prophet, brothers, family, and so forth. But perhaps that's something I have to work on. Number two, who loves a person and he loves him only for God's sake. Number three, who hates to revert to kufr or disbelief, as he hates to be thrown into the fire out of fear. So this is from Sahih al-Bukhari 116. These three things. So one is to love God and the messenger more than anyone else. The second is to love a person and to be loved by them only for God's sake. And number three is to not revert to disbelief because they fear being thrown into fire. So it has extreme faith, faith again, and then fear from pain, possible pain. So these are the underlying emotions that govern that. Narrated by Abu Hurairah, God's messenger was asked, "What is the best deed?" He replied, "To believe in God and his messenger." The questioner then asked, "What is the next in goodness?" So I would ask these questions all the time. If I were around Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he'd be at he would be at a normal human's end of annoyance, because I'd be asking all these questions. So what's the best deed? And he'd say, "Well, to believe in God and his messenger." And what's next? And then okay, I'd be that kid near the great man. The questioner then asked, "What is next?" He replied, "To participate in jihad, holy fighting in God's cause." Now, it's not holy fighting only. It is not waging a war against someone else. Essentially, jihad is against one's own self. In Urdu and Arabic, we use the term nafs, one's own human mortal weaknesses, insecurities, sinful desires. That's actual jihad. Fighting and going out and killing people is a different perspective of it. I'm not saying that isn't part of the umbrella term. But to just say that jihad is this is wrong, firstly. Secondly, as the English language always does, and I've discussed this before, the terms jihadist, Islamist are created in the English language. We don't use those terms. We don't say, "Oh, he's a moderate Muslim," or "He's an Islamist," "He's a jihadist." These are Anglophone terms. Ist is an Anglophone thing, or I would say Latin maybe. So jihad has a negative connotation when it comes to the English language because of how it's been twisted. Jihad actually, well, why don't I do a quick search just to see? So in a quick Google search tells you a struggle or fight against the enemies of Islam. That's one. And the other one, it says the spiritual struggle within oneself against sin. And in Wikipedia, it says jihad is an Arabic word, which literally means striving or struggling, especially with a praiseworthy aim. This is more along the lines of what I'm saying. So to wage a holy war is not the only meaning of jihad. Oops, we have moved. Sorry, I have to come back. And then the questioner asked again, what is next in goodness? The Prophet replied, to perform Hajj, pilgrimage to Mecca, Mabrur, which is accepted by God and is performed with the intention of seeking God's pleasure only, and not to show off and without committing any sin and in accordance with the legal ways of the Prophet. So, to perform the Hajj properly. This is also from Sahih al-Bukhari 126. So, this was wrong. So, all of this is because the footnote is referring to how important it is to believe in God. Okay, I don't think this part is necessary. So, verse 60. Is not he better than your gods, who created the heavens and the earth, and sends down for you water, rain from the sky, sends down for you, whereby we cause to grow wonderful gardens full of beauty and delight? Very true. That's very true. I love this quotation in Noah, the 2014 movie with Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly and Anthony Hopkins, where it says the water from the sky means the water from the land. And it's talking about rain and oceans and lakes and puddles and ponds and streams coming together to create the large flood. And so, indeed, water is sent from the sky. It is not in your ability to cause the growth of their trees. Is there any ilah, false god, with God? Nay, but there are people who ascribe equals to him. That's true. Even today, there's hundreds of people, millions, who have different beliefs about divinity and about God. Is not he better than your gods, who has made the earth as a fixed abode, has placed rivers in its midst, and has placed firm mountains therein, and and has set a barrier between the two seas of salt and sweet water. This is true. You could go and Google it. I'm forgetting where it is, but where the river water and the sea water come together, they don't mix. Two bodies of water. In our imagination, we imagine two solids not to mix, but also some solids mix. Two liquids we always assume are going to mix, and two gases are mixing all the time. But we have examples of this everywhere, and you can see this in the world. Just see river water, or ocean water, or seawater not mixing, and you'll see the green and the blue, and they're not coming together, and they go side by side because they have different chemical makeups, or different viscosities, or different structures. Isn't that insane? Isn't that amazing? I find that's truly remarkable. Is there any ilah, God with God? No. Nay, but most of them, no, not. Is not he better than your gods, who responds to the distressed one when he calls on him, and who removes the evil and makes you inheritors of the earth, and makes you generations after generations? Is there any ilah, God with God? Little is that you remember. That's very true. And to that, I point you to one of my favorite cartoons, but also its live action adaptation, Jungle Book, because I think Shere Khan says to Mowgli, you don't have claws, you don't have sharp teeth, and you don't have protective skin. Yet you take control of the jungle and the earth. And it's so true. And scientifically speaking, we had opposable thumbs, and we were able to make fire, discover and create fire, and we were able to use fire to protect ourselves from animals, and use it to heat ourselves, to cook food, and then power steam engines, heat mud bricks into actual bricks, and so forth. Fire has been one of the greatest discoveries we've had. From the religious perspective, it is this. We have been made inheritors of the earth, generation after generation. If God willed, if we believe God exists, which as a Muslim we do, I do, and that God decided that I'm going to allow gorillas to perform the same tasks that human beings can, the planet of the apes would rise faster than anything else. So the same could be said about lions or any other animals. Put against an animal, very rarely do we come out on top. But because we've been given this, we've been able to take control of the whole planet. Is not he better than your gods, who guides you in the darkness of the land and the sea, and who sends the winds as heralds of glad tidings, going before his mercy, and his mercy is rain? This book was revealed in a very warm, desert-like country. Rain is mercy. Rain is a blessing. Had Muhammad, peace be upon him, been British or Anglo-Saxon or in northwestern Europe, perhaps rain would not have been conceptualized as mercy. But people who are hearing these verses live are living in Mecca at the time. So obviously it's mercy. Is there any ilah, God with God? High exalted is God above all that they associate as partners to him. Is not he better than your so-called gods, who originates creation and shall thereafter repeat it, and who provides for you from heaven and earth? Is there any ilah, God with God? Say, bring forth your proofs if you are truthful. Say, none in the heavens and the earth knows the ghaib, which is the unseen, except God, nor can they perceive when they shall be resurrected. I love this lyrical, rhetorical style of writing. Is not he better than your gods? It's been said 4 or 5 times. It really drives home the message. Nay, they have no knowledge of the hereafter. Nay, they are in doubt about it. Nay, they are in complete blindness about it. And those who disbelieve say, when we have become dust, we and our fathers, shall we really be brought forth again? So this is a common doubt. Because in Islam, we believe that you can be buried anywhere, you can be burnt anywhere, you can be shot with a shotgun or a nuclear weapon, and you'll be raised back till your very fingertips. That's what we believe. And when people doubt it, the response is always, we created you from nothing, from a clot of congealed blood, from a sperm and an egg, from a zygote. You think we can't bring you back? If we could create you from that, we can't bring you back? Really? We're thinking of it in very anthropomorphic terms. So I understand if you make something and then you break it and mix it with 20 other things, it's hard to make the same thing back. But God doesn't have to be bound by those rules. And those who, I've done that. Indeed, we were promised this, we and our forefathers before us. Verily, these are nothing but tales of ancients. I have a lot to say about the tales of ancients, but now is not the time, because some things that persist, maybe they persist because they're true, or they persist because one is keeping them alive. Say to them, O Muhammad, travel in the land and see how has been the end of the mujrimun, the criminals, those who denied God's messengers and disobeyed God. And grieve ye not over them, nor be straitened in distress because of what they plot. This is God's advice to Muhammad, peace be upon him. And the disbelievers in the oneness of God, say, when will this promise be fulfilled if you are truthful? Again, I've covered this in previous chapters. People doubt him. Oh, so we're going to be raised back from the dead? Oh, when is that going to happen? As a rationalist, I would do the same. Had I been alive at that time and I didn't believe in Muhammad, peace be upon him, for whatever reason, for the reason if there were somebody today trying to convince me that their religion is better than every other religion, I would say the same. Oh, so this is your claim? Okay, prove it. But what I find interesting is that Muhammad, peace be upon him, doesn't really engage in this contestation, at least in the book. There's no back and forth. There's no examples. Look, let me convince you. It's more about, well, go see what happened to them. Well, go see what happened to them. Well, go see. I think it's a different type of evidence production. And I think it's also because these are oral traditions. These are not written traditions. These are oral ones. So perhaps in the oral tradition, more emphasis is placed upon, well, remember what happened in that story and what happened in that other story. I think that's a way of argumentation. Say perhaps that which you wish to hasten on may be close behind you. Verily, your Lord is full of grace for mankind, yet most of them do not give thanks. That's true. We're not grateful enough. And really, your Lord knows what their breasts conceal and what they reveal. And there is nothing hidden in the heaven and the earth, but it is in a clear book. Allah al-Mahfuz is what it's called. Verily, this Quran narrates to the children of Israel most of that in which they differ. And truly, it is this Quran. This Quran is a guide and a mercy for the believers. Yes, it is. I certainly believe so. I only have a few more verses left. I've gone over time, so I'm just going to read them. Really, your Lord will decide between them various sects by his judgment. So there are sects, the divisions created in human beings, and he is the Almighty, the All-Knowing. So put your trust in God. Surely you, O Muhammad, are on manifest truth. Verily, you cannot make the dead to hear, nor can you make the deaf to hear the call, which means benefit them, and similarly the disbelievers when they flee, turning their back. So this is exactly what I'm saying. God is telling Muhammad, you can't convince them, you can't force them to hear. You can drag a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Your job is only to present the information. The rest is up to them. They all have equal measures of good and evil in them. And they have the free will to tap into whichever they want. nor can you lead the blind out of their error. You can only make to hear those believe in our ayat, our proofs, our evidences, our verses, and who have submitted themselves to God in Islam as Muslims. And when the word of torment is fulfilled against them, we shall bring out from the earth a beast for them, to speak to them, because mankind believed not with certainty in our ayat, our verses. And remember the day when we shall gather out of every nation a troop of those who denied our verses, and then they all shall be driven to the place of reckoning. I'm curious about this beast, but it will be discussed in more detail in chapter 6. And when we get to chapter 6, we'll take a deep dive into it. Till when they come before their Lord at the place of reckoning, he will say, did you deny my verses, whereas you comprehended them not by knowledge of their truth or falsehood, or what else was it that you used to do? And the word of torment will be fulfilled against them because they have done wrong, and they will be unable to speak in order to defend themselves. If it's the day of reckoning, i.e., the day of judgment or the day of resurrection, it's too late. It's already too late for you. You can't. It's too late. So when they will be questioned or shown these rhetorical circumstances, they won't be able to answer. They'll try to say, hey, send us back again, we'll fix it. It's too late. See they not that we have made the night for them to rest therein, and the day sight giving? Verily in this are verses for the people who believe. So we say that all the time. Raat sone ke liye hai. So it comes from this verse, I think, because the night is for rest. And it also ties into a lot of activities that take place in the night, not in the daytime, which can lead you to the path of sin or dangerous lives. And remember the day on which the trumpet will be blown by Israfil, and I'm saying by Israfil, it's not in the translation. And all who are in the heavens and all who are on the earth will be terrified, except whom God will exempt, and all shall come to him humbled. So on the day of resurrection, the angel Israfil is going to blow the trumpet. And I don't know if we use the term in the Quran, but Israfil is the name that's given to him. And the trumpet blows and everybody listens and it passes out. Only God is there, and then everybody's respect. And you will see the mountains and think them solid, but they shall pass away as the passing away of the clouds. The work of God, who perfected all things, verily, he is well acquainted with what you do. He made them. We believe God made everything. So if he wishes them to dissolve like clouds of smoke, that is what's going to happen. Whoever brings a good deed, I believe in the oneness of God, along with every deed of righteousness, will have better than its worth, and they will be safe from the terror of that day. And whoever brings an evil deed, i.e., shirk, which means polytheism or holding equals to God, or disbelief in the oneness of God, they will be cast down on their faces in the fire, and it will be said to them, are you being recompensed anything except what you used to do? So they'll be made to see their error at that time. These are rhetorical techniques. I am not seeing evidence being put forward by the scientific prophet. But prophets are rarely scientific. Even today, when we say somebody has prophetic vision, many times they don't convince us. They don't show point A to B. They have vision, and they can warn us. And this is a rhetorical device to give examples and to make people see, oh, on that day, you will be questioned. I, Muhammad, have been commanded only to worship the Lord of this city, Mecca, who has sanctified it and to whom belongs everything, and I am commanded to be from among the Muslims, those who submit to God in Islam. And that I should recite the Quran, then whosoever receives guidance receives it for the good of his own self, and whosoever goes astray, say to him, I am only one of the warners. That's exactly what I've been saying throughout this chapter. O Muhammad, O my beloved Prophet, I love you from the core of my soul. I have trouble understanding you. Temperamentally, we're very different because I'm very concerned about myself and my things, and you have no concern for yourself, but all concern for your followers and all concern for the people. That is why you were a prophet. But that is why you are such a great man and are such a great man. Because chapter after chapter, God is saying, look, don't worry about them. Just give them a warning. Whoever is going to listen is going to listen. Whoever is going to go astray is going to go astray. That's not your problem. Don't worry about them. God is saying this to you. And say, O Muhammad, to these polytheists and pagans, all praise and thanks are God's. He will show you his ayat, verses, and you shall recognize them, and your Lord is not unaware of what you do. Sadaqallahu Lazim. That's the end of Surah Naml, chapter 48, in terms of revelation. The ant, we're seeing similar themes emerge. If you go back a year when I was talking about the first chapters, it was all about the orphan, the weak, the poor, helping them, and then believing in God. And then slowly we started seeing hellfire, resurrection, the day of resurrection, sins, good deeds, bad deeds, good deeds, bad deeds. Now we start seeing stories: Moses, Jesus, Noah, Abraham, Salih, Hud, Lot. We're seeing a lot of stories in Solomon, as we just saw this time. And they're all very well interwoven, because this is one of the reasons I wanted to approach the Quran in this manner in terms of revelation, because it clearly shows how it grows from that one encounter in the cave of read in the name of your God who has created you from a clot of congealed blood to this whole history and this discussion, and then convincing Muhammad, peace be upon him, not to worry but just to warn. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful Friday, have a wonderful weekend, and I shall see you again next week.